Hello and good evening to you all. My name is Shashank Singh and here I am with another session of Daily News Simplified. An answer to what, why and how of newspaper analysis from the perspective of UPSC examination. But before moving on to discussion, there is an important reminder for you that tomorrow and day after tomorrow, that is 18th and 19th of May, Raus is going to conduct the last test of the pre-parikshan series of 2024. So all the best to all of them who have registered themselves for tomorrow's or day after tomorrow's session, and would like to ask others to register yourself to check your preparation before the real-time examination or the D-Day. So all the best to you all. See you in pre-parikshan. So here we have segregated our discussion into two parts. First is mains related and second is prelims related topics. For mains related topic, we have taken up draft digital competition bill. Second topic is registration and recognition of political parties. Third is Supreme Court verdict related to powers of ED, which is related to the arrest and detention in terms of PMLA, that is Prevention of Money Laundering Act. And fourth topic is relation between Russia and China and its imperative on India's perspective. From prelims perspective, we have taken up two topics. First is global report on hypertension and second is open market sales scheme. So let us begin our discussion. So the first topic of today's discussion is based on this news article which featured on page number 14 of the Indian Express newspaper, and as you can see here, it is about the draft digital competition bill. So it was out for the public comments and suggestions, and yesterday was the last day of that deadline of giving suggestions to government. Now this digital competition bill was brought in line with the EU's Digital Market Act. We have taken inspiration from there, and digital marketing is a growing area, very complex area, vast area. So Government of India decided to have its own competition bill, which was hitherto was being dealt with the Competition Act of 2002. So if you will see from your examination perspective, GS paper 2, government policies and interventions for development in various sectors and issues arising out of their design and implementation. The major analysis like pros and cons of this bill will be taken up when this will convert into an act. And meanwhile, we will see in this discussion why there was a need for such a bill. Secondly, we will see what are the challenges, what are issues which are being raised by the experts and these technology companies, and we will conclude our discussion with a way forward. So let us begin our discussion with this, that I have told you that we have taken up a cue from Europe's Digital Marketing Act, and the sole purpose is to balance the imbalance in this field. This has been witnessed that some major tech giants like Amazon, Google, Meta, they have a disproportionate control over this digital marketing arena. And this bill is aimed to curb that undue advantage, which does not lie in line with the ethos of competition, open competition in the market. So it is to stop them from practices like self-preferencing, anti-steering. We will see all these terms in the discussion. And a major tech giant collects some data, and again, this data is used by its subsidiaries or participants companies. So again, it acts as a barrier for other smaller players in the economy or in the arena. So this bill, let us see why there was a need. So first was the empirical evidences. The government officials and experts believe that most of the this chunk market chunk is cornered by tech giants, which are basically placed as are located in United States. If you can name some like Amazon, Meta, Google, all these tech giants are located in US. And what is happening, that innovation, the innovative you may say atmosphere, or the chances of innovation are concentrated or in hands of few tech giants. And this concentration of power, this concentration of kind of monopoly, officials believe that these companies are using this monopoly or this command over the market for practicing anti competitive activities. And they give evidence that last year only, Competition Commission of India penalized Google. Around 1.33 crore penalty was implemented on Google for practicing anti-competitive exercises. So concentration in innovation is limited to few tech giants, and most of them, almost 99% of them, are located in US. Now, problem is that once they have captured the huge market share, now this huge market share acts as a barrier for new entrants. How? Because once you have established, once your product is established as a you may say default product, it becomes a problem for new entrants, first to enter then to survive. Take example of messaging app WhatsApp. Now it corners the largest market share. Now there are some other apps, but the entrants face challenge because WhatsApp has become a norm. WhatsApp has become a default app when it comes to messaging. So once the new entrant will come, it will be tough for him to get into the market, even if he's bringing some new innovation to their platform. Secondly, it would be very hard for them to survive this competition or this hegemony. Now, what happens, that some may survive, but that is limited to some niche areas only. Let's take example of Signal app. Now, for messaging only, due to concerns of privacy, one may use Signal app, but this is limited to just some amount of population or some people who are preferring their privacy over the convenience. It will never become, it is not going to become a norm over WhatsApp. Still, these person for their normal chats and messaging uses, they are going to use WhatsApp as their default application. Not, but when it comes to some niche requirement like privacy is there, they will go for Signal app. So a good platform with good innovative projects, good innovative ideas gets limited to a very specific requirement. So scope of growth is limited. Again, an scenario of anti-competitiveness. Lastly, why there is a need of such regulation is based on the surveillance concerns. Now, while using Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, you will find that there are advertisements. Now, these advertisements are much more cheaper than what traditional advertising media platforms provide. It is much cheaper. But in order to keep, because they have access to huge amount of data, in order to keep their advertising potential relevant, these tech giants are analyzing the users history of what they are searching, which platform they are searching. They are accessing all those data. So it creates a surveillance concern, because once you are giving them the opportunity to advertise your product, they are going to surveillance the data of user across different platforms, because only then they can provide you more specific advertisement requirement or a targeted audience. So it creates a concern of surveillance, and all these combine generated the need for having such a bill, or you may say that regulations. Now let us see what are the key features of this new proposed bill, how things will change, what it was earlier. Now, as I told you, mainly the Competition Commission of India, whatever regulation it is putting in or whatever regulation it is imposing on these tech giants is based on the Competition Act of 2002. Now, this is an ex post facto framework. What does that mean? Ex post facto, that penalizing or taking action on some entity when the fraud, or you may say the activity has already occurred. Now problem is, it is like once you will raise a complaint, and that this entity has done anti competitive activities, then CCI will take up that issue and it will penalize after the thorough investigation. What is the problem with ex post facto is that damage has been done already. Market, by the time you will penalize one entity, the market dynamics will change, and it will change in favor of that person or that entity whom you are penalizing. But by the time this penalty comes in or kicks in, it proves detrimental to the complainant who is complaining. Maybe that entity is no longer in market altogether because damage has been done. So this new framework is more of ex ante, that is predictive framework, predictive regulation. So it will analyze beforehand that what could be the implication of such steps, and it kind of demarcate some no-go areas even before the commitment of anti-competitive activities. So it is kind of prescriptive in nature, that it will define some contours that you should not do this, you will not do this, certain activities will be prohibited. So it is kind of demarcating certain no-go areas. Okay, so this is the first thing. Second, it empowers CCI, that is Competition Commission of India, that many tech companies are involved in core digital services. What is core digital services? Like search engines, you might have used Google and all. Fine. And some social media platform. So it will identify those entities which are involved in core digital services, and it will designate them as systematically significant digital enterprises, or SSDEs. Now, these SSDEs, there are some qualitative and quantitative criteria which you will find in the PDF. That there are certain qualitative and quantitative criteria based on which CCI will decide that who are the which of the entities are to be designated as SSDEs. Now there will be certain regulations, certain norms. They will be prohibited from the practices like self-preferencing. Now what is self-preferencing? Self-preferencing. Now in this practice, what happens that through collected data and through their service, these service providers, they favor their own platform. They will not let others to get into. They will give improved rating to their apps applications. They will give good reviews to their applications. They will push their application above those of the some third party applicants, application makers. So it is self preferencing, preferencing your own application. Now Another, they are prohibited from practicing anti-steering. Now, what is anti-steering? In this practice, these platforms don't let consumers to go away from their platform. Let's take an example. There are some applications which only allow their payment platforms for in-app purchases. They will not allow you to use some other payment options. So it kinds of stifles your choices, and it kind of removes the competition. There are some other payment options, there are some other payment platforms which you can use, which you may find more comfortable with, which you may find more useful, but they will not allow you to do that. They will deliberately ask you to make payments through their own application. This is what anti steering. They will not let you steer away from their platform. Another thing which is very common is restricting third parties applications. Now, best example is Apple. If you are using some Apple products, you will find that it never allows third party application. It gives a reason of security and safety, but it will never allow a third party application. It will only allow the application of its in app stores. So it will be prohibited for those entities which are designated as SSDEs. Now, there is another important point. I have told you there are some qualitative and quantitative criteria, like how many users are there, what is market capitalization, what is the average turnover. These are the criteria. You will find them in the PDF. Apart from this, if CCI believes that any entity is providing significant amount of core digital services, it can designate that entity as SSDE, and that entity has to again comply to all the obligations. So it becomes a discretion of CCI in that respect. Further, there are some platforms which have some related platforms to them. Now, what happens? Take an example, Google search engine. Now you have another application, that is Google Map. Now, definitely data from Google search engine is being used in Google Maps also. So for them, for such entities which are using data from parent platform or some major platform, there is another designation, that is Associate Digital Enterprises, ADE. Now, these ADE, once you are designated as ADE, you have to comply to the norms similar to that of SSDE. Now, in talking in terms of penalty is very high for SSDEs. If they will not comply, they fail to comply to the norms and regulation given by the CCI, 10%, they can be fined up to 10% of their global revenue, not just in India, their global revenue. So these are the major provisions related to this new proposed bill, and this is what it intends to curb. Now, what is the criticism? Now, tech giants and experts are criticizing this bill mainly on four important points. First is, it will shift focus from innovation to compliance. Now, these tech companies will be more inclined, or will be more focused towards compliance rather than focusing on innovation. This is their first argument. And they give a simple example that how this is impacting. I told you that we have taken inspiration from Europeans Act, Europe's Digital Marketing Act. Now, so, according to some data, the time taken for Google search engine to search what you want to find out has gone up by 4,000% since the commissioning of the act, because now you cannot prioritize what you want. So it will be a neutral search. So in order to get that desired set of search of results, This time has gone 4000% up in Europe. So they are saying that because focusing on compliance, the innovative part will be gone. Second, as I told you that Apple and Google, they won't allow third party application. So all these companies are still sticking to their demand that allowing all kind of third party application in their platform will definitely hamper the security mandate of their projects or devices or platforms. So what they take pride of, what is their selling point, it would be paralyzed, or maybe you can say it would be compromised. Third issue is, as I told you, that apart from those companies which are fulfilling some qualitative and quantitative criteria laid down by CCI, laid down by this bill, other entities can also be termed as SSDEs. Now, main concern is that in Europe, there is a fixed list of gatekeeper entities like major, what we term as SSDE, they call it gatekeeper entity. So there is a list of those entities. Now, this discretion, the private players and other tech giants are very apprehensive about that. This would be discretion of CCI, and it can designate any entity as SSD, and they have to comply with the norms. Now, another, as I told you, they provide a cheaper platform for advertisement. So, according to tech companies, these regulation, because they will restrict data sharing, they will restrict other things, they will open it up. So, it is going to cost smaller businesses because they will find it hard to get their publicity in a cheaper way, or they will be facing difficulty in accessing data. So these are the major criticism as highlighted by the article regarding this bill. Let's take up the second discussion of today's session, which is inspired from this news article, which featured on page number 10 of the Hindu newspaper. Now, as you can see here, topic is that can parties be derecognized or deregistered? So what is happening during these days, that election campaign is on full swing, and the leaders and parties are not shying away from making derogatory comments, and you may say other kind of speeches which are otherwise prohibited, or you may say not prohibited, but it was advised by election commission through MCC that they should not make such comments or speeches. But consistently star campaigners and other leaders are making statements which are worrisome. So again, a debate of ECI powers, powers given to ECI in order to for the proper implementation of MCC. So this topic covers this part, that whether Election Commission of India has any kind of power to derecognize or deregister the political parties. So if you will see your GS syllabus, GS paper 2, the RPA Act, and in general information related to elections and procedures are very important from your UPSC perspective. So here in this discussion, we will see what is recognized party, what is registered party, and why there is need to give power of deregistration. Is there any power that relates to deregistration with ECI? Is there any power with ECI to derecognize party? All these things we will see in this discussion, and we will end this discussion with some suggestion of some reports like Law Commission, that what should be done. So first thing, that is what are registered party. Now, as the name suggests, any political party, any political entity will be considered as registered if it gets registered or it gets enlisted with ECI. Now, nothing can be done without any broader rules and regulations. So is the case with the registration of parties, as section 29A of RPA, Representation of People Act 1951. It lays down some criteria or conditions through fulfilling which a party gets registered. So it is just a registration process. So it is a simple, the political party has to submit a copy of its memorandum or constitution. Secondly, the party should declare its true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India. Thirdly, it should bear allegiance to the principles of socialism, secularism, and democracy and uphold the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India. Now, these words you will find in the preamble of the Constitution. So, you have to bear the allegiance to all these key aspirations and goals as mentioned in the preamble. So, why registering is important? What are the benefits? First benefit is tax exemption. You will get tax exemption for the donation that you have received under Section 13A of Income Tax Act of 1961. Second, if you are a registered party, you will get a common symbol for contesting general election of Lok Sabha and state assemblies. So, as a independent candidate, you have to be dependent on election commission to give you some symbol for that particular election. But for a registered political party, you will have a common symbol for contesting the Lok Sabha and state assembly elections. Thirdly, you will be allowed to have 20-star campaigners during election campaigns. Fine. So, how it is different from recognized party? Now you have registered your party, but how your party performed in the poll that is contested will decide whether you will be recognized as a state party or a national party. So, election symbols, reservation and allotment order 1968. It defines some conditions which is based on how many seats you have won, what is the percentage of votes that your party has garnered, in how many states you have got those vote seats. All those criteria will decide whether you will be designated as a state party or national party. Now let us know in the comment box that how many political parties are recognized as national party in India. Second question, which is the latest national party for which election commission has removed the recognition as a national party, which is the political party for which election commission has recently removed the recognition of a national party. Now these are the terms, recognized party and registered party. Then why do we need to deregistration? Why? What are the logic behind such demands? First is, you have seen that if you are a registered party, you will get tax exemptions. Now problem is, there is another category of parties, those who have registered themselves but are not contesting any kind of election, and they are not recognized either as a state or national party. Now term for those parties is registered unrecognized political party, that is RUPP. Now most of these RUPPs are not contesting any kind of election in at any level, whether in state, panchayat, Lok Sabha, anywhere. They are not contesting any election. So there is a concern that they have registered this party just to take the tax exemption. So concern about the black money and money laundering, that these political parties are just registered for the purpose of money laundering. Second thing, that why we need deregistration, the power of deregistration, because RPA Act is silent on deregistering power of ECI. Now our model code of conduct says that it prohibits the using caste and communal feelings to garner vote, to get votes. But if somebody flouts these norms, if somebody breaks these rules, ECI has no literal practical problem to punish them. At max, what they can do, they can give a warning, they can ask for reason, explanation, and most they can, what they can do, they can ban you for from the, you may say, your they can ban you from public speaking for another 2 3 days. You cannot campaign for, let's say, 4 5 days. That is at max they can do. RPA does not provide any specific power to ECI that it can deregister a political party. So what happens that these recognized parties, national and state parties, are continuously flouting the norms of MCC because of this lack of power. So question arises that does EC has the power to deregister and derecognize? Answer is yes. EC has power to deregister as well as derecognize, but only under certain exceptional circumstances, and here are those three circumstances. First, if registration is obtained by a fraud. Second, political party ceases to have allegiance to the constitution. Third, if it is declared unlawful by the government. So these are the exceptional. So if question comes, EC has the power to, yes, it has power to deregister any political party. Problem is, what are those power? Those power are not proving sufficient. There is no power to deregister party if it flouts the norms of MCC. So power is there, but it is lying there useless for ECI. Now further, Supreme Court in Indian National Congress versus Institute of Social Welfare had held that ECI does not have power to deregister any political party under RPA Act. Okay, so debate is that it should have power, it has power, but debate is that those powers are not of any use. Okay, so what needs to be done? Now, Election Commission itself submitted memorandum for electoral reform in 2016, and it has suggested that amendment to the laws should be done to empower ECI to deregister a political party. Further, Law Commission in 255th report has asked for electoral reform and recommended amendments for deregistration of political party if it fails to contest elections for 10 consecutive years. So these suggestions should be implemented. Further, talk about this derecognition. Yes, again, it has power. 16A of symbol order that we saw here, election symbol reservation allotment order, the 16A, section 16A of that order provides the power to suspend or withdraw recognition of a recognized political party, recognized as a state or national, for its failure to observe MCC or follow a lawful direction of the constitution. It can derecognize, but it cannot deregister. But this provision is barely used at some instances. Probably the only known instance is in 2015, where it suspended National People's Party for 3 weeks for failure to follow the direction of the ECI. So this is the only, so this is another suggestion that these provisions should be implemented strictly so that to give to have a salutary effect in ensuring adherence to MCC, because if recognition is gone, then also it will be a deterrent to the political parties. But ECI seldom uses, as you can see, it has only used it for once in 2015. So let's move on to the next discussion of today's session, which is based on this news article which featured on page number 1 of the Hindu newspaper. Now, as article says, SC limits ED's power to arrest PMLA accused. Now, you know that there has been various issues, and opposition is accusing central government for using ED as a tool to harass the opposition leaders. So in that light, this judgment is very important. And in crux, just understand this, what Supreme Court has said, that earlier what used to happen, ED, by using its power, could arrest anyone who was summoned by the court for inquiry. Now, Supreme Court said that if a person is cooperating with the investigation and is complying to whatever being asked, so they should be protected. They should not be considered as arrested by ED. If ED wants to arrest them, ED will give in writing to the court that why it wants a custody, what is the reason behind asking for custody, and court will grant the custody. ED cannot directly arrest that person. Court will grant the custody while writing that why it granted the custody. And why this is a complicated issue? Because once ED has arrested a person, getting a bail is a Herculean task. Because of we will discuss why it becomes a Herculean task for getting a bail. So in this regard, Supreme Court simply said that those who are cooperating with the investigation should not be considered or should not be arrested or detained by the ED directly. ED will ask court to give the custody of that person, and court will decide whether to give custody of that person or not. So in your GS paper 2, statutory, regulatory and quasi-judicial bodies are mentioned. And before moving on to the main discussion, that what has been said, what are its implications, let's quickly see the Prevention of Money Laundering Act and its objective. So first objective is to strengthen the framework by providing a comprehensive legal framework for investigation and prosecution of offenses related to money laundering. Second is boosting international cooperation to facilitate international cooperation, coordination in the fight against money laundering. Third is compliance and regulation. By imposing the obligations on various entities and financial institutions to implement robust anti-money laundering measures such as customers' due diligence and reporting of suspicious transaction. And last objective is to forfeit the assets. So in this, ED is authorized to seize and confiscate assets derived from money laundering. So it will result in depriving the criminals of the proceeds of their illicit activities. Now, this was the broad objective of PMLA. Now, where does ED stands? There are several section and provision with respect to this case. What is important? Power to arrest under section 90, which empowers ED to arrest the person if on the basis of order or material in his possession they have reason to believe that the person has been guilty to offense punishable under this act, that is PMLA. Now, just if they had a reason, if ED has a reason, they can arrest a person. Problem is not arresting. Problem is the bail condition, section 45. Now, different from other cases where a person is innocent until proved guilty. In the case of PMLA, the onus of proving innocence lies on the accused. He has to prove that he is innocent. Otherwise, he will be considered or taken as guilty. Second, the second criteria is that this accused person, again, the onus is on accused person to satisfy the judge that this person will not commit any such crime in future and will cooperate with the investigation. Now just imagine how an accused who is arrested, is detained, will be able to convince a judge? First thing. Second thing, which of the judge will take a chance to get convinced by such promises from accused? They will not take a chance of granting bail just by saying that I was convinced enough by his or her statement, and this person, if they will commit some other crime in future, it will be detrimental to the credibility of judge itself. And due to these conditions, these two conditions, that onus is on accused to prove himself innocent, and satisfaction of judges, made this whole process so tricky that getting a bail if ED has arrested you under PMLA became an Herculean task. So now, just to solve this problem, that getting a bail was a tedious task. It took 60 days, 70 days. Many people were there in jail for years, just because nobody was ready to grant them bail. Now, what Supreme Court has said that once under section 44, special court is if special court is giving summon to someone, and that person is presenting itself in front of the court to record his statement, it doesn't mean that he is or she is in custody of ED directly. Now, in this case, ED has to give reason in writing to the court that we want custody of this person, and without custody, investigation is not possible because of following reasons, and court will decide whether to give custody or not. Court will decide, and in this decision also, court will lay down why it gave the custody to ED, why it is convinced. So now there is two-step check. First, ED has to give in writing. Second, the court has to give in writing that why it allowed the custody. So definitely that custody, that arrest under section 19 is no longer there. You cannot directly arrest. So definitely, if court is deciding otherwise, person would not be longing in the jail without getting bail. He'll be treated some other accused who is getting presented for investigation is and cooperating for the investigation. So what was the name of the case? Case is Tarseem Lal versus Directorate of Enforcement, Jalandhar. Now, as I told you, as the judgment goes, ED will have to seek custody of the accused by applying to the special court. After hearing the accused, special court must pass an order on the application after recording brief reasons. Now, while hearing the application, the court may permit custody only if it is satisfied that custodial interrogation is required, even though the accused was never arrested under section 19. So now you have to give reason. Now, two most important implication: ED have to separately apply for the custody. They cannot directly arrest a person, and ED have to show specific grounds, and which is very important because in future course of action, ED has to defend its action because now they have given it in writing. Second, this judgment has given a fillip to right to personal liberty under Article 19. Now, you know that there are 6 articles under Article 19. The right to move and right to profession are the basis of this judgment. So, that was all from this discussion. Let us come to the next discussion of today's session, which is based on this news article, which featured on page number 14 of the Indian Express newspaper. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin is on his visit to China, and world is looking curiously on this visit, and this has established again a strong fact of strong Russian-China bonhomie, which is going on, and it is important from your exam and from perspective of India because something is happening in its neighborhood, and any bilateral, regional, and global grouping which impact which involves India or affects India's interest is important from the perspective of Indian foreign policy as well as your GS syllabus. So, what are the foundational pillars of Russia-China relationship? Why they are so close and why they are exhibiting this closeness time and again? First reason is their shared vision of multipolar world. Both of these countries believe in multipolar world order. They are very critically and very clearly against the unipolar world, especially which is being led by USA. So here comes the convergence. Both have the same vision that there should be a multipolar world, and definitely in multipolar world, China and Russia are the next two biggest contestant in leading this world. So again, a good mutual uh, convergence of ideas and aspirations. Second is these both countries want a regional stability, not in Asia, South Asia, but in Central Asia, basically Eurasian region. They don't. They want a stable Central Asian or Eurasian region where they have their economic interests, their strategic interests. They don't want the Western-led group to enter and influence their area of influence, because this is a mineral-rich region and a huge potential market of future. So they both want a regional stability, and they both want to keep the Western powers away from this region. Second is economic interdependence. Now, China, as you know, has a strong foundation of industries and agriculture. Further, it has a huge resource of human manpower, human resources, while on the other hand, Russia is a mineral rich, oil rich, you can say the natural resource rich region. Now they are complementary to each other. Now with the Russia Ukraine war, China has proved as one of the largest exporter to Russia in terms of food grains, armaments, everything. And Russia in turn has given the oil and other mineral resources whatever needed to China. So it's kind of mutual interdependence, and these are the three core major reasons which are foundation pillar of the Russia China relationship. Now, why India should be concerned or why India should be watchful? First reason is the border dispute with China, where nations like Russia, USA, their viewpoint and their intervention is always warranted by India. Now, China, with the closer ties with Russia, will be more, you may say, more confident and will be more emboldened to pursue their activities, because at least they don't expect Russia to criticize them for their actions in their border disputes with India. So that is the first concern. Second is the security concern. Now most of the Indian imports of strategic armaments, the weapon and other defense equipment, is still Russia is the largest exporter, and it garners around 60% of our import of arms and ammunition. So definitely a closer tie with China is India need to remain watchful just to maintain the continuity and reliability of uh, such flow of export arms and ammunition and defense technologies. Now, third, and most important is India is trying to navigate through critical geopolitical channels and geopolitical concerns, and India is having a good. India shares a good relationship with USA and other Western countries, and as well as Australia, Japan, and all those countries which are considered as a partner of Western Bloc. So India has to make a balance, a strategic balance. They have to maintain between Eurasia and Indo-Pacific. So these India is connected with all three major players of the world. If you will consider EU, then all four major players. So the path ahead is very critical, and they have to maintain a critical balance. So, according to this article, what should be India's approach? First is India should engage itself in multilateral diplomacy, multilateral forums like G20, SCO, BRICS to voice its concern and build consensus on global issue. What it will help? It will help India in fostering partnership with both Western powers like United States and EU and countries like Russia and China. Then we must focus on the neighborhood also. So the regional cooperation is of paramount importance. So it should also engage itself with the platforms like it should take leverage of platforms like IORA, BIMSTEC, etc. to strengthen regional cooperation within South Asia and beyond. So, and lastly, India must push harder for reforms within global institutions, basically United Nations Security Councils, because getting a permanent seat will change many things for India and its concerns. So that's all from the mains perspective. Let us take the prelim section of today's session, and the first question is based on this news article which featured on page number 8 of the Hindu newspaper. Now, World Health Organization WHO has come up with its first global report on hypertension. Global report on hypertension. And name of the report is Race Against the Silent Killer. Race against the silent killer. Now, what is hypertension? This is a medical condition where it is characterized by a persistent high rate of blood pressure. Now, how do you check the blood pressure? Using two number, the systolic, that is when heart beats, and when heart rests, that is diastolic. So these two are number through which you check your blood pressure, and hypertension is a condition where a patient faces or witnesses a persistent high level of blood pressure. Now, very simple medication and lifestyle changes can be a cure of this hypertension, like physical fitness, exercises, food habits, cessation of tobacco consumption. All these things can improve the situation of hypertension. What is interesting in this report is the consumption pattern of salt and how it is related to the hypertension. And why we have taken up this topic? Because reports are the basis of previous year MCQs in UPSC examination, as well as various diseases are another important theme of UPSC examination. As you can see, in 2021, they have asked a question based on hereditary diseases. So we have taken up a practice MCQ based on the hypertension. But before taking up the question, let us quickly look into the key findings of the report, that why such a normal thing that we are discussing that can be cured very easily by cheap medication and very just changing some lifestyle practices, you can cure this. Concerning is 4 of every 5 people with hypertension are not adequately treated. They are not getting treatment altogether. Secondly, nearly half of the people Nearly half of people with hypertension globally are currently unaware of their condition. They don't even know their condition. And more than 3/4 of adults with hypertension live in low and middle income countries. So it is more associated with low and middle income country. It has more occurrence there. Now, key findings about India is that hypertension is the most important risk factor for death and disability in India. Only 37% of Indians with hypertension are diagnosed and only 30% get treated. More importantly, more than half of all the deaths in the country, that is 52% due to cardiovascular diseases such as heart attack, can be attributed to elevated blood pressure. The primary triggers for hypertension in India are high salt intake, tobacco use, obesity, alcohol consumption, and lack of physical exercise. Now, important thing about the salt consumption is an Indian average Indian adult consumption of salt is 8 to 11 grams, which is twice that of the WHO recommended daily salt intake. And you can see here, high salt intake is a primary trigger of hypertension in India. Now, what are the major initiatives at global and Indian level? At global level, the Global Heart Initiative 2016, which is an initiative of WHO and United States Center for Disease Control and Prevention, to achieve global target to reduce the prevalence of hypertension by 25% by the year 2025. Now, in India, Indian Hypertension Control Initiative, which is a joint effort of ICMR, Ministry of Health, Directorate General of Health Services, WHO India, and some other partners, and these are the strategies that they have opted for. So let us take the practice MCQ. Now, with reference to the hypertension, consider the following statements. The first statement says it is measured using two numbers, namely systolic and diastolic pressure. Now, this is correct, as we have seen. Now, second statement says that Global Alliance for Chronic Disease, that is GACD, releases the global report on hypertension. Now, this is incorrect because WHO releases this report. Thirdly, India Hypertension Control Initiative is a collaborative project of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and WHO India. This is also a correct statement. So, as you had to find the correct statement, our answer would be B, that is only 2. That brings us to the last question of today's discussion, which is based on the open market sale scheme. Open market sale scheme. Now, this news article says that there are speculation that wheat sale will be the wheat sale under open market sale scheme will be resumed. Center is unlikely to start any such sale before the result comes in and new government formation takes place. Now, important development related to agriculture sector are important theme from the perspective of UPSC examination. So we have taken up, as you can see here in 2017, they have asked a question based on National Agriculture Market Scheme. So we have taken up a question based on this open market sale scheme. And before that, let us understand what is open market sale scheme. As the name suggests, now in this, food grains are being sold by government or some government entity in open market. Like they will ask FCI to sell the surplus of wheat and rice in the open market through e-auction. This has been done to bring the transparency. So any government entity, government or through its entity, they can sell the grains in open market. Now, any state can purchase, any entity can purchase, private player can purchase, farmer can purchase from this e-auction. Now, there is a predetermined reserve price. Predetermined reserve price. The bid in e-auction should be up and above this reserved price. It should not go beyond. And why it is done? Because there are some lean season, and there are some region which face deficit of food grains. So in order to maintain healthy supply of food grain during lean season, and in order to fulfill that deficit in particular region, government comes up with the open market sale scheme up and above the reserve price through an e-auctions. Now there are changes which has been done in open market sale scheme recently. First is the limit on the quantity which can be procured. So earlier it was 3000 ton for wheat, but now under open market sale scheme domestic, the maximum quantity that a bidder can purchase in a single bid is restricted from 10 to 100 metric tons. Further, it has excluded state governments, but not all. It has excluded several state government, but exceptions are there, that northeastern state, hilly state, and states which are facing law and order issues or natural calamity can still participate in this e-auction and can purchase the rice in exceptional cases at existing rate of 3400 per quintal. So statement 1 says the central government has excluded all the state government. This is incorrect because exceptions are there. Second, the bidder cannot quote price more than reserve price. No, it can quote more than reserve price but not less than reserve price. So this statement is also incorrect. So our answer would be D, that is neither 1 nor 2. So that's all for today's session. For any question, any doubt, you can text us in the comment box and our team will respond you as soon as possible. And if you like the initiative, do like the video, share and subscribe the Raus IAS official channel. Stay tuned for more such updates. Thank you very much.